Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
Had a whole bunch of people send me this story about a sober driver arrested for DUI and thrown in jail. But it was because the officer knew his brother and believed that the man would have weed in his car based on the fact that he knew his brother. And a lawsuit's been filed over this. Marisa Sarnoff wrote this for lawandcrime.com. A driver in Tennessee is suing the state and two state troopers for $1 million after he says he was wrongfully arrested and detained for DUI despite being completely sober. Whenever you hear about a $1 million lawsuit, you don't want to call it that just yet because you can ask for anything you want. The pleadings are like paper. You write anything you want on a piece of paper. So it could be for $1 billion, it could be $1 trillion, but it's a lawsuit that will get quite serious, I believe. So the man was pulled over while driving along US 411 in Monroe County, which is about 50 miles south of Knoxville. In 2023, according to a federal lawsuit filed in that state, a trooper told him, that is the driver, that the tint on his windows was too dark. And so the driver says that's not true, but that's what the cop said. The complaint says that as the trooper ordered the man to provide his license, registration, proof of insurance, the man cooperated, remaining respectful, restrained, courteous, and compliant. Nevertheless, the trooper went back to his patrol car and shared the man's name with his colleague who was with him on the scene. And the trooper told his colleague that he saw no evidence of intoxication, nor did he smell marijuana. So this is where those body cams come in real useful in litigation. So the problem, of course, is that his partner knew who the man was and drew his own conclusions about his state of mind. Upon learning of the plaintiff's identity, the other officer stated that he knew the plaintiff's brother and he guaranteed the plaintiff had weed in his vehicle and that plaintiff had probably smoked it that morning, according to the complaint. At this point, the first trooper went back to the man's car and asked him about drug use. When the man asked why he was being interrogated, the trooper said, "Your eyes are red, therefore I suspect you're driving under the influence." The man told the trooper that his eyes were red because he had just woken up. That's when the other officer, unsatisfied with the man's successful performance on a field sobriety test, took over, instructing the man to perform additional field sobriety tests and asking him to recall the most recent time he may have smoked the weed. As the traffic stop was happening, his mother drove by and pulled over to the side of the road. "Why is my son being arrested?" she asks. And this is all picked up on body cam. And the first trooper says, "For driving under the influence, ma'am." The mother says, "He's not been drinking." And she says, "If you have falsely arrested him, you're going to be in trouble. I promise you, because I know my son." According to WSMV, the body camera footage shows that the trooper repeatedly turned off his audio, once during a conversation with his partner, and once during a conversation with a tow truck driver who had asked the trooper if the driver was drunk. Meanwhile, the driver allegedly passed additional field tests, told the officers it had been 4 years since he last smoked, and guaranteed if given a blood test, it would come back clear. They then administered more tests on him and arrested him for DUI. He was placed in the back of the patrol car, despondent, dehumanized, handcuffed, and, in fact, sober, as established by the blood tests subsequently administered. The lawsuit says that later tests confirmed that neither drugs nor alcohol were in his system at the time of the arrest. Tests, plural. They tested him for everything, and he came back clean for everything. Despite this, the complaint says the man spent several hours in jail, his mugshot was taken, made publicly available, and his vehicle was seized and towed to the police impound yard. Several months later, the charges were dropped, according to the complaint. The officers had no valid legal basis to extend the traffic stop beyond the matter of the window tint, administer sobriety tests, and arrest the man, the complaint says. So they see the guy driving along, and they think his windows are tinted too dark. They pull him over. You can ticket somebody for that. That's an equipment ticket. However, the police officer is convinced something's going on, but he's got no evidence of it, which he tells to the other guy, the other trooper. I've got nothing else going on here. I got nothing. The other officer says, well, I know his brother, and I guarantee you he smoked some weed today. Guaranteed. Because of his brother? Like what? They run him through all the sobriety tests they can think of, and he passes them all with flying colors. And they still arrest him. The lawsuit says that violating civil rights is a problem across the agency and officers know about it. On information and belief, the Tennessee Highway Patrol in the Knoxville area has a custom and culture of violating the constitutional rights of others. Though not a written policy, this custom was so widespread as to have the force of law. As a result, the allegation is that it is the custom and culture of Tennessee Highway Patrol officers in the Knoxville area to protect its officers when civil rights violations have occurred. The man's claims include unlawful seizure, false arrest, illegal search, false imprisonment, and assault. His complaint seeks $1 million in compensatory damages and an undetermined amount in punitive damages. Tennessee Highway Patrol did not respond to Law and Crimes request for comment. And of course, very rarely does anybody comment on pending litigation when they are being sued and they are a big entity such as the state or the Highway Patrol, et cetera, et cetera. But again, the guy is sober as the day is long, as they say. And one officer says, I got nothing on the guy. And the other officer says, yeah, but I know his brother. And because of that, he's on something. They run him through all the sobriety tests, and he passes. And you can go on the internet. If you don't know this, you can go to YouTube and type in, drunk driving arrests and find more of these than you want to see for the rest of your life. You literally spend the rest of your life just watching nothing but arrests of drunk drivers taken from body cams and dash cams on police cars. And the interesting thing is that occasionally you'll see somebody who is so stinking drunk that you can smell the alcohol through your screen. I mean, I've seen some where it's so bad, it's almost like a bad skit on TV. However, I've seen some people who get out of the car and go, I haven't been drinking, or I had one drink. And cops hear that all the time. I had a couple drinks. But I've seen somebody asked to do the field sobriety tests, and the person did pretty well. And I've seen a cop go, I still think you failed, and boom. And there is this subjective nature to the tests where, especially before body cams, there would be no way you could ever fight this. Because if they say, could you please count backwards from 38 to 26? And you do it. The cop goes, well, I think you stumbled a couple times. You got all the numbers right, but there's a couple times you hesitated or whatever. Then they do the thing where they hold a pen in front of your face and they go, don't move your head, but follow it with your eyes. Don't move your head, but follow it with your eyes. That thing. And I've seen them where they go, you failed that test too. And I'm watching it going, I just watched that whole thing. I didn't see them move their head. And you have to remember also that the body cam's often down here. And a lot of times it's not showing completely everything, depending on how wide angle it is. And I've seen some before where it doesn't seem to pick up stuff. But the notion that the guy can shut off the audio from time to time. Somebody asks him a question, he shuts the audio off. He's done with answering that question, he shuts the audio, turns the audio back on. That's a problem. And so I'm very curious, and if there's any good criminal defense attorneys in my audience who've handled cases involving police misconduct, I want to know the answer to this. There's a concept of spoliation of evidence. If there's evidence out there or that existed at one point in time, and one side can prove that the other side destroyed it, you can get an instruction to the jury that says the other side destroyed it because it would have hurt their case. Here's the question. Legally speaking, have courts ruled that shutting off a body camera is spoliation of evidence because you're not deleting something that already exists. You're preventing it from being created. And I'm not sure that distinction is enough to say it's not spoliation of evidence because there's no evidence to spoliate. So that's the real question. By the way, it's not spoil. It's S-P-O-L-I, not S-P-O-I-L. So spoliation, long O, spoliation. So the question is, when a police officer shuts off his body camera to kill the audio of an event where he's speaking and then turns it back on again, is that straight up spoliation of evidence? And if it's not, let me know, but I'm pretty sure you can still argue that to a jury. And you can say, remember the video that you saw, and there's this gap in the audio where he turned it off. He did that because he did not want you, the jury, he did not want you to know what he said. If he'd said something correct and lawful and good, he would have saved it because that's what he's supposed to do. But he knew he was going to say something wrong, so he shut it off. What did he say? He probably said, no, the guy's not drunk, but we don't like his brother, or something dumb like that, okay? So, again, I want to know on the very specifics of it, is it spoliation of evidence, or is it simply a matter that you have to make the argument and get around it that way? Spoliation is better. You get an instruction from the court that tells the jury, if you find that this evidence was destroyed by one side, you can find that the inferences went against them, and that's why they did it. And when you get an instruction from the court that you can hammer on, you hammer on it. Trust me on that, my friends. So there you go. Sober driver arrested for DUI and thrown in jail because the officer knew his brother and guaranteed he had weed in the car, according to the lawsuit from lawandcrime.com. Marisa Sarnoff wrote that. Can you imagine? I've got 5 older brothers. 5. If I got in trouble because people knew my brothers, I wouldn't be here right now. Questions or comments, put them below. Let's talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. The only way to get rid of temptation is to yield to it.